Welcome to Power Your Life Today. I'm Kristy Jo, Mind and Body Strategist. Today you are listening to part 3 of this series, Surviving Then and Now, presenting the world with more understanding, insight, and tools to prevent suicide. I lost my oldest brother in 2012 to suicide through a series of unfortunate events that happened quickly. I miss him terribly and am reminded of his absence often. Since that time, I have wanted to understand more of the psychology and emotions that can lead into this state of mind. Today, I'm talking with Rafael Capitan. He is a father, a husband, a business owner, and a suicide survivor. He is now a motivational speaker and helps others to choose to grow through his work at ichoosetogroww.com. Today, Rafael shares his story to help others who may be experiencing what he went through. You are going to love how real and vulnerable he is in sharing, as well as the powerful tools he weaves into the conversation about how he powers himself up every single day. You may reach us by sending me a direct message on Power Your Life Today on Facebook, or you can find Rafael. If you listen at the end, we've got the links to his website, ichoosetogroww.com, as well as his free coaching Facebook group. So definitely plan to join there. All right, you know what time it is. Let's chat with Rafael.
It's just been a slow process as far as just getting it out there, but I think it's just I'm getting more comfortable because I've seen some changes in me to where I can now feel comfortable. I've forgiven myself. I can just share the experience so that people can just learn from the experience itself in any area of their life, and so yeah, I have a couple times publicly gone up there, and I plan on doing it more as I do public speaking at some schools, elementary, middle, high schools. I definitely have shared it a couple times with some of my clients that I do private coaching with, and stuff like that. So yeah, so this is I'm excited to do this podcast and just bring more awareness out there for the people that need to hear this.
That's wonderful. What was the emotion that very first time that you did share, just so we can kind of all, respect and honor that this isn't easy, per se, but what did it feel like that first time?
Well, I was pretty emotional and preparing it was about a 20-minute speech. The preparation was the hardest because I wanted to make sure that I was inspiring people from the experience, and that trying to not necessarily relive the emotions, but just I was emotional because I was sharing it for the first time with people that some of them I didn't even know. Some of them were really close to me. Some of them had no idea that I had ever experienced that. And so the preparation was tough, but I felt relieved. I felt a sense of freedom when I was able to express it and do it. And it's just, I wanted to just let people know what I went through before, during the actual experience of trying to take my life, and then, the events that happened after. And then, of course, almost 10 years later, right, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't have all of the blessings that I experience now had I not gone through that experience. And so there's a good reason for everything.
Yeah.
But it was very emotional. I do remember, crying, and people in the audience were crying because who knows how they connected with my story. But now when I tell it, I don't get emotional anymore, because it's just more of I want it to be a learning experience for people, because there's so many things that you can take away from a story. Because the statistics you sent me was just amazing. 25 failed suicide attempts for every one that isn't.
There are so many people out there, people around us that aren't talking about it, there's this stigma around talking about it. And today we want everybody listening to say, no, we're talking about it. We're opening up, and it's okay to talk about it. We don't need to be alone in these feelings. And I'll probably get more emotional than you. I try and keep emotion out of these types of things, but as many of our listeners know, suicide is very personal, having lost my brother. So today our goal is to help our listeners really feel not alone, and to give them tools, to give them ideas, insights, and so forth. So why don't you go ahead and launch into the story of, go back 10 years, tell us what was going on in your life at the time, and probably don't spend a lot of detail into the actual suicide attempt, but then, just enough for some frame of reference, and let's go from there.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. We were running our own business, and we had hit the roller coaster of having your own business, which every business goes through. But it gets to the point where you start to question other things, relationships, question life, question, is it worth it, kind of thing. And I was never taught. I had experienced some things that I should have learned the lesson from throughout my life, doing an LDS mission and having amazing parents and great family. But I was never taught the power of our thoughts, the power of our mindset. And so I just went down that downward spiral of negativity, and I started to believe the negative things that I was telling myself. So, just circumstances with decisions I had made and finances and relationship stuff, and just kind of everything piled up. And I'm one of those people that holds it all in. I don't talk about it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do this, where we try to figure everything out on our own. And so I was just holding all of these emotions, and nobody knew I was depressed. Nobody knew that I was struggling in my spirit, in my mind, the things that I was just telling myself. A lot of people put on the happy face, but they're struggling like Robin Williams. Nobody knew what he was going through. There's so many examples out there, but so I was going through this time of my life, where I got to the point where I actually believed that I would be doing a service by not being here. That was a belief that I had. I got to that point, and I think that's rock bottom, believing that my wife would be better off if I wasn't here. My 3 kids at that time would be better off with a better dad. The business would be better off. I really believed that. I believed that if I were to leave this life, this earth, everybody would be better off. And so, a lot led up to that. That's a lot of baggage to get to that point. And I remember what that felt like. And so just to kind of expound on that, is the night that I tried to take my life, I tried to do it by taking a lot of medication, a lot of pills, like handfuls. When I went to the hospital, the doctor said I should not have been there, that I should have passed away. But after I did that, I went to my living room, I knelt down at our ottoman, and I said a prayer. I told God, Heavenly Father, I know what I'm doing. I ask you to take care of my wife, give her a better husband, give my kids a better father, just take care of them, because I really believed that I was doing something good. See, I think a lot of people just judge people and say they're being selfish. And that's what I had always been taught about suicide, is that it was selfish. But at that time, I truly believed that I was doing something good for people, because I felt like I shouldn't be here.
So then, I'm just curious, so then is that how you positioned it to be okay? Because it truly was a service thing. It wasn't about you.
Right. I really honestly believe that my wife and my kids, the people around me would be better off if I weren't here, that I was, slowing down their progress, or that I was just stressing them out and stuff like that. And so that's why I knelt down instead of prayer, just saying, I know what I'm doing. And I went to my boys' room. I gave them a kiss. They were asleep. It was late at night. I went to our little girl's room, gave her a kiss, and I went to bed, falling asleep, singing primary hymns in my head. And I knew what I was doing. I had pretty much turned it in. I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm done. And waking up the next morning was one of the greatest blessings of my life, but also one of the scariest things in my life, because I had turned in. I had given up completely. I was not expecting to wake up the next day. And that night, the very first person I told, because I was super scared, because I was pretty sure I would, not be there. The very first person I told was my father-in-law. And he, gave me his good counsel and wisdom. And then I told my wife and my mom and my mother-in-law and stuff. And those were the only people that knew. And I struggled with the fact that I was still alive. I really felt like, why am I still here? I shouldn't be here. And so I was still in that mindset. It's a mindset.
It is.
And a few days went on, and one day I was just laying in bed, and Chelsea just saw me in a daze, and I told her I need help. I need something. And so she took me to the ER. The doctor said I shouldn't be there. I should be dead. And I went to the psych ward. I mean, they took me in a van to the psych ward. I still remember Chelsea leaving me there. She was bawling. I was bawling. And when they took me to this living room and they had Shrek playing, I realized that I needed to get my act together, that I needed to change my thoughts. I needed to change where I was, because being in that hospital, and there was only 2 other people at that time, the 3 days that I experienced there and hearing what they were going through, I realized that I had so many things to be grateful for, that I had so much life to live for. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that the doctor taught me that has stuck with me since then was that if we're ever telling ourselves something, the first question we need to ask ourselves is it true? Because everything I was telling myself wasn't true, but I was believing it was, because I was in a negative state. I was just depressed. I was holding all of that in. I wasn't talking to anybody about it. And so that really hit me. Was me not being a good husband true? No. Was me not being a good father true? No. But I was telling myself I was a bad father, a bad husband, a bad businessman, whatever. Mm-hmm. The second question, he said, is it really true? So if we answer the first question, yes, I'm still a bad father. The second question is it really true? And then the third question is it really, really true? Mm-hmm. And that has always stuck with me, especially whenever I feel like a negative thought. Most of them are not true. These beliefs that we're having are not true. These fears that we're making up, they're just stories. And it's hard when you're really down and you're believing these things. It's really hard to look up. It's really hard to feel like you're safe to talk to somebody about it. I mean, my wife had no idea. She had no idea. And I know that even in the last 10 years, she's been, she's told me this, she feels like maybe she's walking on broken glass to make sure she doesn't trigger any buttons, or to make sure that she doesn't say something wrong or do something wrong, because she doesn't want to have to go through that again. She doesn't want to have to see me suffer and see me in that state. So that just, I remember it, but I don't really connect with it, because it's I've forgiven myself, and I hope that people have forgiven me for doing that. I'm grateful every single day that I'm here, that I had a second chance, because unfortunately not everybody gets the second chance. And so I want to help others find the options, like you said, the tools. There are other options. There are things that we can seek for help. There are ways where we don't have to go to that last resort, because that was my last resort. I really thought I was doing the right thing, but I really wasn't. And so, but again, everybody's in a different mindset when they do something like that. Everybody's story is different. But it's just letting people know that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to call a phone number. It's okay to ask for help, and to just know that you're not alone, because there's so many people that are struggling.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving us a lot more of that background. There's a few things I'd like to unpack for our listeners here. You mentioned the word trigger, and that seems to be a word that has come up with a lot of the conversations that I've been having with people as they saw my Facebook post and started messaging in their stories, and it was quite interesting. So explain to us what that trigger word means, and what you guys have experienced, what you've experienced with any triggers into those past thoughts or feelings.
Yeah, and for me, the trigger is just the getting back to that negative downward spiral of just starting to believe negative things that aren't true. And so I think when I said trigger, sharing my stories, is my wife wanted to make sure she wasn't going to
want to trigger anything.
Yeah, trigger something to where I would get depressed, or to where I would get upset, or whatnot. And so it's just like with any habit or an addiction or a behavior, they all have triggers. So, if we are trying to eat healthy and we go to a buffet, that could trigger old habits, cravings. And then we just, okay, I'm just going to eat everything I can, and then I'll get back to healthy. It's just, there's triggers to everything as far as habits and behaviors. But for me personally, I've tried to remember some of the things that I went through, so that I don't allow old thoughts or behaviors or habits that might want to creep back into my life. I go back to that. I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to experience that again. I don't want to put my family through that again, because it really hurt and scared my mom. My dad passed away in 2001, so it was just my mom, and that was really hard because she was by herself. My in-laws and my wife, they were the few people that knew, my couple therapists and stuff. It really hurt them, and I remember that what they had to go through, and I don't want to go back. I never want to go back to that state of mind where I was before. And so I now, from a lot of things that I've learned in the last few years, it's a lot easier because I've really looked into self-growth, personal development on a daily basis. It's the number one priority for me now. And that has just made a huge difference in the things that I'm experiencing in life, the success that we're having in life, the blessings that are coming in to my life. But it's just been a year and a half that I've started sharing this story, because I really want to make an impact on a bigger level and stuff like that. But as far as triggers go, it's allowing something to get us back to a behavior or a habit that we don't want to, bring back into our life. And so you just want to be aware of it. You want to just catch it as soon as you see it and say, okay, I have to make a decision. Do I want to go back, or do I want to just keep moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Have you experienced any physical complications, or even at that time when you did try to take your life? You said you woke up the next day. Did you just wake up at home? Was there any physical sign that something, had happened, or what did you just experience there?
Well, for a couple of days I was vomiting, just like very violent vomiting, just really bad headaches, And I think that took a toll on my energy, my desire to go to work. And I remember it was just a few days, I think like 3 or 4 days after that, I was laying in bed and just
like you said, like zombie, like
my
almost.
body was there, but I was just dazed. Like I just didn't have any desire to get out of bed. And that's when I'm grateful that I just spoke out for the first time, asking for help. That was the first time I said, help me, like do something. And she got me right to the ER. And then that's when things started to take the turn. But yeah, it was just a lot of physical, I think, just releasing everything that I had taken. And then the fear that I had that I was still here. I mean, that was the biggest one.
Because now you have to deal with the life that you had like signed off that you weren't going to need it or have it or want it.
Right.
So
right. And it was scary. It was scary.
That again. I mean, that certainly doesn't just change overnight. And like you said, you just embedded yourself in all this personal development. So let's break down personal development because, hey, guess what, listeners? That's what this podcast is.
Awesome. Love it.
I mean, but really, what is that? And what is that on a daily basis? What does that look like? I think many people look at it like, oh my gosh, it's like this 1 to 2 hour course every day. I have to sit and meditate. I have to journal. Yeah, but what are small things that we could be doing? Even just one small mindset tool every single day we could all be doing.
Well, the biggest thing that changed for me at the beginning when I started to finally commit to personal development, I think a lot of people will put their toe in and then they get out. I mean, I jumped fully in finally a little over 2 years ago, where I said, I'm going to work on myself every day. Yeah. And it only took about 3 or 4 weeks to see amazing things happen in my life that I was starting to attract. And so the biggest thing that helps and that still helps is gratitude. And it's a law. It's just like the law of gravity. The law of gratitude just allows us to love more. It allows us to send out an energy that brings more things into our life that we can be grateful for. Because it's super easy to look at the things that we're not grateful for. And that's what too many people are doing. That's what I was doing back then. I was looking and completely focused on all of the things I didn't want in my life when I could have been focusing on all of the amazing blessings that I had. And so something that still helps me is living in a state of gratitude, practicing gratitude. There's a difference between being thankful and practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is getting your emotions, your feelings to a state where you are feeling grateful for whatever you're being grateful for. You know, I could just say, thank you for opening the door for me, but I could take that to the next level and just get the feeling and emotions behind that and be grateful for nice people, be grateful that I was able to allow them an opportunity to serve, you know, just really take it to the next level. So if I can give anybody advice, it's just be grateful for what you do have. Oxygen that we have to breathe. There's no lack of food for us. There's no lack of water for us here. You know, maybe there are for other people, but we have that blessing. The bed that we sleep in, the gas that we have to put into our car so that we can go places, our jobs, our careers, our businesses, our family. I mean, there's so many things that we can be grateful for, but unfortunately, too many times we're just focused on the things that we don't want in our life that are happening that we're not grateful for. So gratitude is huge. For me personally, what does my personal development look like every day? I listen to good podcasts. I listen to personal development books like Rhonda Byrne or Bob Proctor or Linda West. I try to listen to one book a week. I meditate 15 minutes a day. That's just what works for me. I listen to a meditation app. Let me see what it's called. I always forget what it's called. People always ask me what the app is called.
I'm curious because I've heard
Insight Timer. Timer. It's awesome. So it's a free app, but it's called Insight Timer, and it's a meditation app, and it's cool. You can like meditate with people all over the world. You can just do your own.
Awesome.
And I just do it 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week. When I go to the gym, I sit in the sauna and I just breathe. I think about the things that I am working towards. I think about the things that I'm grateful for. I think about the things that I desire. And that just really helps me to just kind of quiet my mind. It gives me time, because if I'm loving myself, if I'm loving who I am, if I am taking care of my body, if I'm taking care of my mind, it gives me the freedom to go out and serve other people. It gives me the energy and the desire to help other people. And if you can help other people, you're going to be able to get the things that you desire. And so personal development, it's every day. And on Sundays when I don't go to the gym and I don't meditate and maybe I don't listen to my books, I'm at church. I'm going through my worship. I'm spending time with my family. I'm quieting down from the week and preparing for the next week and stuff like that. But it's an everyday thing. I can now notice a difference in my energy if I go 2 or 3 days without working on myself, without doing something to grow. The purpose of personal development is to grow our spirits, to become a better person today than we were yesterday. That's the purpose. It's just, how are we thinking? What are the emotions that we're sending out? What are we feeling? Because who we are is what leads us to our thoughts. Our thoughts leads us to our emotions that we're having. Our emotions lead us to our words. Our words lead us to the actions that we're taking. And those actions will lead us to our results. So if we want to have different results, we have to change who we are, because that's where it all starts. Our state is first cause. And so it's just, I love it because, it just helps me stay grounded. It helps me stay in a state of gratitude, because there's so much to be grateful for. Even when we have challenges, we're always going to have challenges. Life is a roller coaster. We're always going to have challenges. However, if we can start looking at the challenges as the blessings that they actually are, it changes our point of view as far as what life is. Because all of my challenges that I've had in my entire life, I now see the blessings that have come from those. And so whenever we are confronted with another challenge, we can either look at it as a challenge, complain, get negative, go down that spiral, or we can try to look at it through God's eyes and see what his perspective is and try to find the good in that event. So everything happens for a good reason, not just a reason.
I like that. Well, and thinking about how we have to be proactive in this. And I think many people are under the assumption that they just are this way, which could be true. Absolutely. Chemically, we know that is absolutely the case. However, there is a great deal that we can bring to the table that you're pointing out. And I think that's what we all need to realize is we each have a little bit of opportunity each day to say, which direction am I facing? Am I facing growth, or am I facing digression? Am I facing that tailspin you described? When you think about the people who have been supportive to you, can you describe a few of the small things they have done over the years that help you? And it could be, right after what happened, or it could be even now. And this is more for insight into people listening to this they have somebody who perhaps has been suicidal or attempted in the past, and they're looking for tools of how to help. What would you tell them?
Well, I appreciate the question, because that's so important. The number one person for me was my wife. She never gave up on me. Even after we kind of got through this chapter, I'm not perfect, and I've, made mistakes and stuff like that. And she's always stuck with me as far as being a supportive of me being down on myself, and not necessarily getting to that point, but having, negative experiences where I got depressed or I got quiet and things like that. Like now she'll just call me out on it. She when I'm quiet and she can feel the energy, she'll just say, "What's wrong?" And I always say nothing, and we just go through this little, but now it's like half a day or a day. And then the next day we're back to good, because I'll work on myself the next day. And then I realize, okay, things are good. But she stuck with me throughout the whole experience. But 10 years later, we have 2 more girls. We have 5 kids now. The amazing blessings that we've had as a family. I now get to work from home for almost 3 years now. I mean, it's just so many blessings have have come into our life because we stuck together. She supported me. She went through all of that. I can't imagine what she really went through emotionally, spiritually, trying to keep me up, hold me up, take care of the family while I was down and trying to, get back to who I really could be. And my in-laws and my mom, just the support and love. It was really the love that kept me alive, and kept me from going back to that place. And so if I can give any advice to anybody that knows somebody that's going through some struggling times, love on them as much as you can and just let them feel a safe place, so that hopefully they can open up to you and they feel safe telling you, you know what, I'm not doing good, or I'm having these thoughts, or because usually when something like this happens, nobody knew that they were struggling. Nobody knew that they were having a hard time. And so if we can love as much, that's why, you see a lot of these posts, they say, hug your kids, tell your kids you love them. You never know.
Yeah.
It's true. Like if we loved more and we gave people permission to open up to people that are close to them, maybe, if we could just help one person seek help from this podcast, that is worth it, because who knows the ripple effect of that person seeking help could have. So we just need to love on each other as much as possible. Stop the gossip, stop the hate, all of that stuff. It doesn't add any value into people's lives. It doesn't add any value to yourself. If we can just love on each other more, it's going to help somebody out there. It's going to allow somebody to say, this person I know I could talk to. And maybe it's not a family member, maybe it's a best friend, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a coworker or something. I could have talked to people, but I, at that time, didn't feel safe. I felt like I would be burdening somebody by telling them all of my problems, and
or judged, maybe.
Right, and I was just trying to figure it all on my own. But because of my wife's love and my mom and my in-laws' love, because they were the only ones that knew, that kept me alive. And I knew that I could talk to them now. I knew that they didn't judge me because I had tried. They weren't upset because I had tried. They didn't say I was selfish because I attempted to take my life. They loved me. They never gave up on me. They supported me. And they still do. They still do. And I love my in-laws. I love my mom. I love my wife so much. And I feel safe talking to them about stuff. And I have. And I still do. And I still try to be the guy and take care of everything, but I open up a lot more than I did a long time ago. And so just if there's anything we can do to help as many people as possible, is to show more love and to just love on people more so that they feel safe and they know that they're taken care of. And really, it's the number one thing humans crave, is to feel loved. It's not money, it's not recognition, it's to be loved. It's the number one thing that people desire. And so let's give it. Let's go out there and give it more so that we don't have to wait until after something happens to realize, could I have done more? I mean, we could always do more, but if we do it now, maybe we help one person. And I really think we're going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. And that's just it. Rafael, thank you so much for sharing that. All of our listeners, as you can hear, we really, as long as we're helping one person, that's what this is about. So my question to each of you is, are you that one? Do you have a story to share? If so, please message me. Send me a direct message on Power Your Life Today on Facebook, and let me know what Rafael's story did for you. Let me know what you're going through, thinking, and how this podcast is helping. I would love to hear that. Rafael is a speaker. You also said you are a coach. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you online, or how they might book you to come speak at an event?
Yes, thank you. So they can go to ichoosetogrow.com. It's I Choose to Grow. It's trademarked here in the United States. So they can go to my website and learn about my public speaking for schools or for events or for corporations, businesses. And then my private coaching, right now I have a 12-week private coaching system. And I call it a system because even after the 12 weeks are over, I still coach them kind of for the rest of their life. So it's not a program. Programs have an end. And so it's a system because I want to be there. I want to do life with them from when they get started till we're done. And so they can find more information there. And then they can also like my Facebook page, I Choose to Grow. So if they just look up I Choose to Grow, and then I also have a free coaching group where they can go and just get inspiration on a daily basis. I do live videos in that group about life, about the laws, about serving and loving on people, and it's called Uplift and Elevate with Rafael. So there's some different ways that they can communicate with me and just follow me, keep in touch, or they can just contact me directly through Messenger. So thank you for that opportunity. The more people we can help to love more, then it's just going to be a ripple effect that's never ending.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And we're just grateful for you to share with Power Your Life today. So listeners, you know what time it is. It's time to power up and go to Power Your Life today.
If this resonated with you, please share it with one person who comes to mind. Investing in yourself is the best investment you're ever going to make, because when you improve your life, everybody around you improves their lives too. Subscribe to this channel so you are really sure to catch our next power session together, so you can continue to power your life to one of more service, value, and love. Until then, power your life today.